Next up, I'm pleased to introduce Travis York. He's going to set the stage for the workshops that follow as the next part of the agenda. We're going to be engaging you all in those conversations. Travis T. York is a PhD and the Director of Inclusive STEM Ecosystems for Equity and Diversity, that's ISEED at AAAS. Dr. York's research and work focus on catalyzing and sustaining systemic change and transformation to achieve inclusive and equitable access and progress through STEM pathways into the STEM workforce. Let's put your hands together for Dr. Travis York.
Thanks, Michael. As Michael mentioned, my name is Travis. It's a pleasure to join you all today, and I'm really, really happy to take us forward into kind of the next phase of what we'll be doing in our convening today. What you didn't hear from that really lovely intro is that I'm also the first person in my family to go to college. I was a first-generation college student. And I'm also the very proud son of a half Choctaw, quarter Cherokee father, my dad. And so one of the things that I like to do, especially when we're gathering and convening in a space to do work, is just to take a moment to acknowledge the lands in which we're gathering. And so for those of you that might be very familiar with the land acknowledgement, I hope that this is meaningful to you. And for those of you that aren't as familiar with the land acknowledgement, it's just essentially a way to kind of honor the elders both of past and present, whose lands we oftentimes gather and continue to work or live on today. Obviously, I do not live in this area, so I hope that I will do okay in our pronunciation of some of the territories that we're in. But we're actually gathered today on the territories of the Wapakuri and the Chethe-Sacoan territories. And so I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that as we continue our work today and to thank you all for hosting us. We're really excited to be here at 3M and to continue this work with so many partners. For those of you that might not be familiar with the STEM Opportunity Alliance, I'm going to take a quick moment just to give you a very brief overview. My team is probably cringing on the sides of the room right now because this is the part of the talk where they specifically tell me to get our website right. And I have not always done that. It is www.stemopportunity.org. I'm seeing lots of nodding heads. It means I nailed it. And you can spell STEM in our website with 1 or 2 M's. It will both get you there. And I really just point that out so that if you are interested in learning more, and in particular, if you're a part of an organization or an institution that you think might be a good fit, you saw announced several new partners that we're celebrating as we have grown from in December, just over 75 partners to now over 125 partners. If you're interested in learning more about what does it mean to be a partner, how do you join, all of that information is on our website. I just wanted to make sure that we got you that information. But let me tell you a little bit more specifically about what the STEM Opportunity Alliance is. In particular, we view the STEM Opportunity Alliance as what we oftentimes, what one of our advisory committee members deems a cathedral building approach to our work. I'm referencing actually Una King, who's the Chief Diversity Officer at Snapchat. And when we were first telling her about this work, she said, "Oh, yeah, you're doing cathedral building." And we thought, oh, that is a phenomenal way to kind of describe this work. And what we mean by that is that we're really taking a very long-term strategic approach to our work. The STEM opportunity to be truly successful in deep structural change and removing barriers so that all people can access and thrive within STEM requires for us to take a generational approach. So our framework that we're envisioning, the work that we've been doing and co-constructing with so many members across the country, really thinks about what would it look like for us to achieve an equitable STEM ecosystem by 2050. And with that generational approach to our kind of the ending point of where we would like to go, we want to reverse engineer with what Dr. King called the critical urgency, the fierce urgency of now. And really thinking about what does that mean for us this year, this next year, the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? What must we do in incremental, steady work to achieve a truly transformational STEM ecosystem that has unlocked the talent that exists across our country in all pockets and planes and spaces of that country, which you've heard many of my predecessors, pre-speakers, kind of lovely kind of envision for you all. And we're really, we're really particular that with this cathedral approach, we really are trying to envision, I think, as Sid really nicely, kind of talked about, that every child, born in this country, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, their socioeconomic status, their sexual orientation or gender identity, and in fact, in light of those, feels that they have truly a space in STEM and never questions that right to engage in STEM, to be STEM literate, whether or not they're choosing a career in STEM or not. And that's really kind of this work that we're truly after, that they see their views, their values, their interests reflected in STEM teachers, professionals, and STEM research, and that they don't question whether or not STEM is for them or by them or having them in mind. So what exactly does that mean? SOA is the result of more than 2 years of development and coordination among the White House, AAAS, and the Doris Duke Foundation. We seek to build a strategy to galvanize support and action towards shared goals for equity and excellence in STEM. At the heart of this effort is an alliance of partners that are part of an innovative as part of an initiative incubated by AAAS to really develop these not only shared goals, but aligned actions to take us into that future that we're describing. So our approach to this work includes intently listening to our colleagues and our communities, both that we live in, but also across the country. As you heard Sid talk about, this is our 7th national convening. We have several more on our list. So if you really love this work and you want to join us in another city, please let us know, because we have Chicago on Saturday, and then next month we'll be in Atlanta, or actually at the end of this month we'll be in Atlanta. We also still have a meeting in Dallas and a meeting in Tempe, Arizona, all on our list. So there's lots of exciting work that we'll be continuing to lift up in across the country. In addition to kind of listening to our partners, this work is also about convening those that are already engaging in this work and those that want to engage in this work, and really thinking about how we can do our work together in a way that actually increases our impact in ways that separately we would not achieve. So oftentimes when we're thinking about what is the work of SOA, what is SOA trying to accomplish, we oftentimes talk about how we're trying to accomplish the work that no one organization could. We're trying to accomplish the work that no small set of organizations could. We're actually trying to aim our sights on the work that it would require a vast network of partners to achieve together. That's the work we're after. And that's the work that we're going to be asking you to help inform and engage today in our small groups. This is really one of the most important things that we do as AAAS. We have 4 strategic objectives as an organization, and the first 2 are very much at the center of what SOA stands for. The first one is about continuing to advance science for progress in the world, and our second strategic priority is about removing barriers to STEM so that all can participate in it. And we find that those two strategic priorities, both the excellence of the STEM enterprise and equity within that enterprise, are inextricably linked. And so today's work is about continuing to flesh that out, to act now, to envision the work that we must do over the next many years to achieve an outlook that has that generational approach. So this is why we worked closely with the White House to launch the SOA this past December, as you heard. We've been taking a 4-phase approach. You'll hear more about phases 3 and 4 after our working groups. You'll get to hear a little bit more about like What's next? What are we doing with all the work that you all have just done? Our first phase was the kind of pre-work and launch of the STEM Opportunity Alliance at the co-hosted summit at the White House, really shining a national spotlight that this work was essential to America's progress and starting the galvanizing kind of movement process. The phase that we are in right now is this co-construction phase. And I know that oftentimes people use the term co-construction, and we wanted to make sure that we were clear about what we mean by that. And so one of the most important things that we have been doing at these nationwide convenings is meeting with community partners and stakeholders and really delving into the work of what a national strategy needs to address so that we can make sure that the issues and concerns and the context relevant ideas important to your communities are encapsulated in that plan. This is hard work. It's oftentimes very difficult to go from the work that we might be doing in our local communities and think about how does that translate on a national scale. That's part of what our team will be helping you with. So it's okay today if you're focused on, here are the problems that my community or my organization or my collective of organizations are focused on. Please help us understand what that context is, what are the pain points that you're experiencing, and where you might see levers for change that we can then kind of synthesize and elevate into a kind of a macro space. So we want to give you freedom over the next set of working groups to really think in that way. And we especially don't want you to shy away from the idea, if at some point in time you find yourself saying, well, this would be really difficult where I work because of X, that because of X is crucial for us to hear and to understand. That context really does matter to us. So we actually don't want you to hold back from that. We actually want to hear more and more about that local context and why, where a system isn't working. In particular, we know that many of you work on interventions that are extremely successful in supporting individuals in your communities. And oftentimes we think about those interventions as windows into understanding where a system is failing, because an intervention has had to be created to fix something that the system wasn't doing. So we also want you to think about those interventions and those strategies that are really impactful, really important. And we're gonna, hopefully through our facilitators, we're gonna ask you to kind of really delve into what is happening or what is not happening or happening in the system that makes that strategy or intervention required. Because that will be a red flag to us on thinking about how the system has a barrier that we need to remove so that all people can thrive in that system better.